Welcome, movie fans, to another Hollow Victories Out of the Ring. This time we are looking at E.T. because we took a look at two movies that very much rip off E.T. I'm Matt Presents, and I'm joined as always by my co-host.
Makal, movie Makal, Spiny Norman. I don't know. I don't know my own identity anymore. And just for full transparency, at the time of recording this, I've only seen one of the two ET ripoffs. We're recording this in kind of a weird order this time.
Yeah, well, I wanted to get this one watched before we recorded that episode, so...
Yeah.
And, it was just more convenient to record tonight.
Right.
So, E.T. the Extraterrestrial from 1983 tells the tale of a young boy named Elliot who discovers an alien creature who has been abandoned by his people. They had to leave in like a hurry because like the government was tracking them. So E.T. the name of the alien that's what Elliot decides to call him. The name of the alien that has been left behind. He his people have left and he's now wandering around Earth, and Elliot sort of takes him in, hides him in his closet, and he and E.T. become like good friends. They form like a psychic bond together. But then the government shows up and wants to take E.T. away. E.T. is dying. It's also hurting Elliot that E.T. is dying because of their psychic link. It's a whole big fiasco. Meanwhile, E.T., of course, is trying to phone home. He is trying to contact his race to come back and get him. Classic movie. Very iconic movie, although perhaps less iconic than people want to think. There's like a couple really iconic moments, but we'll get into it. Michael, what'd you think of E.T.?
I enjoyed it. I did definitely see this at some point when I was a kid. I do have like vivid memories of watching with my brother and like a family friend, but I didn't remember much about it. Like I forgot like a majority of the scenes in the movies. I even kind of forgot like how Elliot and ET are connected, like the scene, just how their emotions are connected, but even like physically they're connected. Like if ET gets drunk, then he gets drunk. If he's dying of a horrible illness, so is Elliot.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. Spielberg is one of those directors where I feel like I need to give some of his movies a second chance because I've always gone into his work. Like, I appreciate this guy. I think he's really good at what he does. I am not that invested in his characters. I am not that invested in his stories. Like, Private Ryan didn't do much for me. Indiana Jones didn't do much for me. Jaws didn't do much for me. Jurassic Park and E.T. are definitely two of the higher up ones. Like, I like Jurassic Park I grew up on, and I really liked that one. And E.T., yeah, this was pretty charming. I actually did like the characters a good bit in this. And the alien, E.T.'s in a lot of it, and the puppet, like, rig was really well done throughout the entire thing. I was pretty impressed how they pulled that off.
Yeah. Have you seen Schindler's List?
I saw it in high school, and I fell asleep. And maybe that's a
Okay.
fucked up thing to say. I know it's a very important movie, people say, but
It is a pretty long movie.
yeah, I was in high school. I don't know, like I wasn't really I didn't have the best attention span when I was in high school, so maybe it's like a movie I could appreciate more now.
I Schindler's List, I think, is a great movie, but it's also one that, like, if I'm gonna watch it, I have to just, like, hammer out a whole day,
Uh-huh.
Because it's fucking 3 hours, and I'm gonna be, like, emotionally drained by the end of that.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely one that I think I should watch start to finish. But yeah, it's like it was not the movie for high school Michael to watch.
E.T., I saw it at least once as a kid. There's, like, a part of me that wants to say I saw it when I was homesick one day, but I might be making that up because, like, E.T. gets sick in the movie and Elliot gets sick in the movie. I very much get the feeling this was something I watched on a sick day.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it slightly more recently than that, but even then, like, as I'm rewatching this, there were a lot of moments I'm like, oh yeah, that happens. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
And, like, as I'm watching it, it comes back to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, I remember that now that I'm seeing it, but a lot of it, I think, kind of leaves me pretty quick.
Mm. There's something like, and this has very little to do with the movie and more so to do with me. That's like one of those. I have a couple of movies that I didn't actually sit down and watch until I got way older that are still like kind of nostalgic, just because I have like those memories of watching it with brother and family friend. Because we had like these two there was these two kids that were close to our age. We're still slightly in contact with them. They were like, but basically they were like family friends. You know, people we were seeing all the
Yeah.
time. Like this, Beetlejuice and Fantasia were on. I remember those three being on a lot whenever I was over at their house. Like they would play those three a decent bit. So maybe I never even sat down and watched the whole thing. Maybe they were just on so frequently that I caught bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
But going into it now, I like the way that the characters are written. On top of that, though, we have just a very well made movie. Like Spielberg, even in like his movies that I'm not crazy for, one thing I can't like ever take away from Spielberg is how good of an eye for cinematography he has. Like he's very good at setting up shots. Like almost every single shot in this movie looks really nice, especially like during that opening scene and during the climax. I think the only thing
Oh, yeah.
about the movie that hasn't aged well is green screen, but even then, it's not like Labyrinth bad, you know? It's not like
I
it's okay. It's acceptable, you know?
I feel like it's just because, like, nowadays we are used to green screen, so we can tell. I
Right.
feel like seeing that in the 80s, your mind would have been blown. You're
I
like,
think so. Yeah.
whoa.
And some of the shots do look really good. Like the silhouette shots, those they hide the green
Oh,
screen
yeah, no.
perfectly. And obviously there's a huge advantage there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the iconic shot of the movie, right? Is him riding the
Yeah.
bike in front of the moon.
Yeah, both that one and the like evening shot at the end of the movie. Both of those worked really well. Hell, just riding the bike at night worked really well because it was darker and you can hide green screen imperfections. The one where it's like golden hour near the end of the movie where all the boys are on their bikes, that one's a lot more noticeable. But it's still pretty good for the like even to this day it's
Yeah.
like I would say it's better than what you see in YouTube videos.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good looking movie. Here's the thing, I feel like overrated has sort of become like a dirty word. Like if you say something's overrated, it means you didn't like it. And I disagree, because like there are plenty of movies I'm like, no, this is a good movie. It's not like the masterpiece I think people hype it up to be,
Right.
but it's a good movie. I feel that way about E.T. I think E.T.'s a good movie. I don't think it's like the masterpiece people hype it up to be. You know,
Right.
it's a cute little alien movie for kids. I enjoy it.
I think the reason so many people started getting like frustrated with the word overrated is because I think a lot of people just used it as a way to quickly dismiss something without doing any further elaboration, and that's just like, well, no, I don't think it's overrated. Why do you think it's overrated? But at the same time, I definitely, to me, whenever I say a movie's overrated, it's when it's one that had so much build up for me for so many years, and then I finally sit down and watch it, and I just don't see what everyone else sees. Maybe I don't even dislike it. I just like, man, I don't get it. I'm missing something here. Because I think that does happen to everyone. You can like the movie. It's like what you're saying with E.T., but like, why is this one of the most beloved movies ever made? I kind of get it with E.T. because just like the technology is really
I
impressive. Like the bike scene we
Yeah.
mentioned, but also just
I
E.T. himself is really well rigged. He's very expressive, and the only
Oh yeah.
times where it like you can kind of see the clumsiness is when they have to make him walk in like a long shot because they have to make him go really slowly. But aside from that, like he looks pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And I like all the like weird movements he does, like when he extends his neck and like
Yeah.
does weird things with his head. No, I think people like this movie. I think for one thing, it is like it's a children's movie. I think a lot of people saw this when they were kids and they have nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
I think they're sort of latching on to like a handful of really memorable moments, like that scene with the moon. That's really cool. Like especially watching it this time, I'm like, this film is kind of awkwardly paced, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's 2 hours, and it like around the hour mark, it feels like they're sort of building up to a climax, and then just this whole government thing suddenly comes in and is like a huge issue. Plus, like ET getting sick, and it's like, oh, I thought we were building up to the end there, and instead there's just another hour.
E.T. getting sick struck me as weird because it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. Like maybe if he was getting more and more sick as the movie went on, that would have worked better. But to me, it's just like he goes from looking the same he has the entire movie. Maybe there were some minor details changing that I just didn't notice, but maybe he was getting a little bit more pale as it went on. But there was a huge jump from that nighttime scene to the morning.
Well, I feel like he got sick because like he fell in the river and stayed in the cold night air.
But why didn't they show that?
I mean, I'm kind of with you. You could have shown ET like staying out at night and getting sick.
The stuff with the government, I'll at least give them this. They're building up to it the entire movie, so it's not just like out of left field. And also it
Yeah.
leads to like a climax that I'm sure they really wanted to do with like all the police cars and the bikes flying off and even before the bikes fly off, there's like a lot of stunt. A bunch of people. They made most of the kids cover their faces up so they could do have these stunt riders come in, and they did a really good job. Like those scenes were satisfying to watch, just seeing them like right off the hills, like land right in front of a police car and right off. That was a fun scene to watch. So to me, that was like, I think Spielberg has a habit of doing that. I think he will like risk his film's pacing to put in a scene that he think would be really, really, really cool.
Yeah, you might be right about that. Have you seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
I haven't. I only know one thing about it, and it's a really weird thing, and that's like part of the score incorporates When You Wish Upon a Star. I don't know why that's the only thing I know about that movie, but I heard that track and I was like, this sounds lovely. I like this version of the track a lot more than Jiminy Cricket singing it.
That's another Spielberg film, and I definitely get some like Close Encounters vibes from this film. Personally, I enjoy Close Encounters a little more than E.T.
Which one was first?
That might be a hot take. Close Encounters was first. Close Encounters was 78, I think.
Okay. I've heard people say that before, that they like Close Encounters more. You're not the first person I'm hearing say that.
Okay. My fun fact about that is he was making that at the same time Lucas was making Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And both of them were convinced that the other person's movie was going to be like way more successful, so they both bet like 10% of their income from the movie on it. And Spielberg won out. Spielberg got the Star Wars money from Lucas. Because that movie was like way more successful than Close Encounters.
I thought for a brief second you were going to say that they were going to accuse each other of ripping each other off, and it's like, that's going to make that they must have buried that hatchet.
No, Spielberg and Lucas were like good friends for a while. There was like a whole like gang of directors who like, I think they even had their own like label, their own studio for a little while. It's how Coppola managed to make Apocalypse Now. Huh. But it was Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola, and I think De Palma. I think De Palma was in there with them.
Huh.
That was all I had to say about like there's just like stuff in this movie that feels very similar to Close Encounters. Granted, Close Encounters is like a more adult movie. This one's clearly more directed at kids.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to check that one out.
I enjoy it. Although, I also really like Jaws. I think Jaws is one of my favorite movies, so...
Jaws I gotta rewatch, because I saw it in high school, and I appreciated the craft, but I don't remember being all that invested in it. Still, I've also grown to appreciate movies more as I got older. Like, when I was in high school and middle school, I loved it, but I only wanted to make my own shit. I wasn't even fucking watching other people's stuff. And then I got older, I'm like, okay, no, it's actually very valuable to watch other people's stuff if you're gonna make stuff. I just watched YouTube videos when I was, like, in high school. Like, that's why I have all this fucking Rich Alvarez knowledge. All these fucking weird web shows that I keep showing you guys, because it's like, this is what I spent a majority of my time on.
Now, see, I did watch a lot of movies in high school. Like my senior year, I had an off period one day, like because I had all like the credits I needed, so I just took an off period at the end of the day, so I'd leave after lunch, and I used that time to just go home and like watch a movie every single day,
Nice.
and that's how I saw like so many classic movies. Like I made it a point to watch like the big names. That's how like the first time I saw RoboCop, the first time I saw The Godfather, the first time I saw uh I think Goodfellas too. Goodfellas. I like went out of my way to watch the classics in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, there's still some classics I haven't seen. Like, you named several movies there that I haven't seen. And yet you're doing a movie podcast with me.
Yeah. I've I've seen like way more movies than you, and like I think that comes through in the podcast sometimes because I'll be like, "Yo, have you seen like deep cut movie no one cares about?" I mean, it's kind of why we're doing Out of the Ring is just like there's movies I want to show you before we do certain matchups.
I haven't seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but I have seen Extraterrestrial, 1983.
Extraterrestrial visitors.
Visitors, you're right, you're right. I gotta say, E.T. has nothing on Trumby.
Honestly, it is kind of weird that we've done this before, Mac and me, because watching this back, I'm like, holy shit, Mac and me stole so much from this movie. Like, it's not even, like, it's so similar. It's, like, alarmingly similar.
One thing that you told me about Mac and Me is how obnoxious, I think you said it was Pepsi, gets
Coke.
involved in the movie. Or is it
It's
Coke?
Coke and McDonald's.
Coke and
There's a
McDonald's.
lot of Coke and a lot of McDonald's product placement.
Like, this one had Coors for a scene, and it had Old Spice nod in one scene. And that's it.
Yeah, no, he does offer him a Coke,
Does he?
actually. Weirdly, and I was, like, surprised by how much Coke product placement was in this, because I'm like, wow, it
Slut!
is just, like, Mac and me. But, the big one for this movie was Reese's Pieces. Like, they...
Forgot about the
Ste-
Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, Spielberg, like, this is, like, one of the earliest movie tie-in things, like, was Spielberg approaching Reese's Pieces to be in the movie, and then, like, Reese's Pieces sales, like, skyrocketed after this movie came out.
I'm not the biggest Reese's Pieces guy. I like Reese's.
I like Reese's. Reese's are, like, top-tier candy. Reese's
Yeah.
Pieces. The problem is they don't actually have any chocolate in them. I would rather have peanut butter M&Ms.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that it's like, yeah, like, because the chocolate, I mean, it's also just too thin. It doesn't even really taste like a Reese's. It tastes different.
Yeah.
They taste pretty different. They do taste pretty different.
Circling back to Mac and Me, this movie did influence like a lot of other movies in the 80s. Like this had a big influence on 80s films. Off the top of my head, Batteries Not Included, very E.T. movie. Short Circuit, also like some E.T. vibes there. John Carpenter's The Thing opened across from this, and we'll get into this a little in the Hollow Victories episode too. But John Carpenter's The Thing opened like around the same time as this and fucking bombed. So
Yeah.
Carpenter's next movie is like a very friendly alien movie called Starman, and it fucking sucks. Like, it's so boring. But he went out of his way to make a movie that was nothing like The Thing.
Yeah.
And it sucks because The Thing is one of the greatest movies ever made.
The Thing is fantastic, but I can't, like, blame him too much because he did that and it backfired so hard on him. Nowadays, it's a good thing, but I hope something good happened to him because of that, because people do sometimes make something and it becomes beloved, but it becomes way too beloved, like, it becomes beloved way too late for the director to gain anything from it.
Weirdly, I think Starman is the only Carpenter movie to ever get like any sort of Oscar recognition. I think Jeff Bridges got an Oscar nomination for that film.
There was, you were talking about, like, other movies that were inspired by it. There was also just, like, E.T. might be one of the most heavily referenced movies in TV shows, both
Yeah,
with just doing a little reference, like the bike shot's been done to death. I mean, The Simpsons has done that bike shot
absolutely.
more than once. But
No, that
also,
is like one of the most parodied moments in any film. It's
yeah,
like that, the I am your father from Star Wars, the Matrix shot where he's like ducking under the bullets.
right.
Like those three specifically have just been parodied time and time again.
Yeah. I think that with ET though, it's also just sometimes like, the show. I mentioned this at the beginning of the movie. Like, I was kind of making a joke about it, but realistically, I'm pretty sure Stranger Things has taken a lot of inspiration from just the '80s in general. But there was some like strong ET vibes in Stranger Things.
Yeah, I don't know how much like Stranger Things was just straight up. Okay, we're gonna do the kids from ET, but yeah,
Oh,
like the kids
I
in
don't.
this movie are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and that's like a big thing on
I think
Stranger
it's.
Things.
I think it's an aesthetic thing because, like in this movie, like the brother's really the only person in that group that does anything in the movie. Where the friends just come in at the very end. Well, in Stranger Things, like of course the entire cast they have like a lot of solidarity, and you see it like their dynamic play out through the show. Like there's a lot more character in them. But yeah, just like from an aesthetic point, it's like reminding me of that a lot. The Have you ever seen the Simpsons crossover with The Critic?
Yes, that is a great episode.
That's like probably top 10 worthy. That's a really good one. I love it though because Mr. Burns makes this like really manipulative movie and he ends it by ripping off the ending of ET where he like his finger glows up. He says, "I'll be right here," and then gets on a spaceship. And then everybody hates it, so he has to like bribe the judges to pick his movie. But
Saying boo earns. I was saying boo earns.
let's just say it moved me into a bigger house. Oh no, I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud. That was Krusty when he was voting for Mr. Burns' movie. Anyways, enough about that. Is Mitzi joining for this one?
I thought they were, but they have stepped out. I think they're trying to find their headphones. Do you want to talk about the people in this movie?
Yeah,
The characters, the actors?
for sure, for sure. I guess maybe we can start off with Henry Thomas as Elliot.
Yeah. Like, pretty good kid actor.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say he's, like, great or anything, but he is a child actor, and he does, like, he is the lead of the movie. He carries the movie very well.
yeah. I don't think, based on his range in this movie as a kid, who knows what he's up to nowadays, but has he been in stuff lately? Like, I don't. The only like kid actor from this that I recognize in modern stuff is Drew Barrymore.
He was in that Doctor Sleep movie
Oh yeah.
that came out recently. He was also in Gangs of New York in the 2000s. I don't know how old he was when that
Oh
came
shit.
out, but
He was in The Haunting of Hill House. Was he the dad in that? He was in The Haunting of Hill House. I watched that show. Was he the fucking dad? Because he kind of looks like the dad. Huh. Well, anyways, yeah. Based on his range, I don't know if he could do like a more serious movie very well when he was a kid. But for something like this, that's supposed to kind of be like whimsical and all that, I think he fits it perfectly fine. During the only scene where it's like the death scene, it feels like he's trying, but like obviously for the tear, they're just using teardrops, which whatever. It's like this in this movie, I don't mind that too much. But he's not a child actor who can cry, but very few child actors are, unless they do something fucked up behind the scenes. But I'd rather they not
yeah,
do that too.
yeah, no, let's not make children cry.
Yeah.
You mentioned Drew Barrymore as his sister. It's our third episode, and we've already got another Drew Barrymore movie. Although this time she is drastically younger.
Yeah.
Like, this is like 8-year-old, maybe probably younger than that. Probably like
Probably.
5-year-old Drew Barrymore.
5 or 6. Yeah, I wouldn't. I think 8 is probably too old. Yeah, and I guess I didn't like because I didn't when I saw her name pop up, I was like, I did not remember her being in this.
I
And I don't know.
honestly, I didn't remember her being in this, but when her name popped up, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot she was in this.
I I don't. I guess I didn't realize how long she was in the industry. I knew she was in it since she was a kid, but this young, she's just been
I
making
mean,
movies her entire life.
yeah, the Barrymores are like a famous acting family. Like her grandfather was back in silent movies. You know,
Uh huh.
she comes from like a long line of actors.
Okay. Good. I think all three of the child performances. Robert McNaughton as Michael. A little bit older, not like kind of like a teenage actor, but he does fine too. I actually think he does a pretty good job of like shifting from just being a dickhead brother, older brother, to like being a little bit more sympathetic and nice. And I think it's kind of realistic how he approaches that too. Like when he sees the alien, it's like I kind of like that he doesn't just start screaming and freaking out. Like I like that he kind of just like he's slowly processing it throughout that scene. Then he just agrees to his brother that he's going to keep quiet about that, and that kind of gives them like a
Well,
this ET kind of gives them like a ground to like finally get along on because they both want this alien to make it out okay.
he like doesn't immediately start screaming, but then Drew Barrymore comes in and she screams, and then E.T. screams, and then he starts screaming, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's reasonable.
Yeah, so I do. Yeah, I do really enjoy how they handled that. Yeah, I think all three of the kids are good. Like they work in this movie. None of them came off as annoyed to me.
I mean, we've gotten into this, but I feel like really the only other character that is that substantial, other than E.T. himself, who was performed by a number of like suit performers, and
Yeah,
I
I got
don't
their
know
names
who.
up.
I don't know who does his voice.
I don't know either. Because none of these have that listed. I'm sure if I looked into it, I could find that out. But actually, type that up while I read out these names.
Yeah,
I am gonna mispronounce these. That's just a fact. I apologize. Pat Bylon or Billon. He was a two. They say he was no taller than 2 feet and 10 inches. So he was one of the people who was able to like work through the costume. There's Matthew D. Merritt, who was the one child actor to play E.T., who was born with no legs. He is the only E.T. actor who is still alive to this day. He showed up to the 40th year anniversary on a skateboard. Seems like a cool guy. And then there's Tamara D. Trucks. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Treaux. Trax. I don't know. Maybe Trax. And she was another one. She was 31 inches tall. So yeah, just another like shorter person who could get into the costume and make it work. And they did a very great job. ET's movements, like I know some of it wasn't them, some of it was Riggin, like the neck. Like no, none of them were inside the head. None of them were inside that neck, of course. But like just like the hand movements and everything, it all came off as very natural. They did a good job operating that thing. So special
yeah,
shout
no,
out to those three.
yeah. I mean, it's a good puppet, and I think they did very well with the puppet. Pat Welsh did the voice of E.T., and it's like a good voice, like because you kind of get like aliens struggling to speak English out of it. Weirdly, I'm looking at her IMDb now. The only other films she's in, she was in a movie in 1940 called Waterloo Bridge. No credited character, so I assume she was just like an extra. It might not even be the same actress. Might just be someone with the same name that IMDb has decided to credit to her. And then a year after this, she was in Star Wars Episode 6 as another alien.
I know Mitzi just joined us. Let's mention one more. I think you were about to name her one more actress real quick before we go to the Mitzi corner.
Oh no. I thought I had shown up far too late for me to contribute anything. I was just going to sit here and listen, but I guess I have to now.
Yeah, we got Dee Wallace as their mother, and I love Dee Wallace. I'm always happy to see her pop up and stuff. Weirdly, she was like mostly known for like horror movies. Like that is most of what she has done.
Uh-huh.
Like even to this day, she continues to do horror movies. Like she's in a bunch of Rob Zombie movies.
Yeah, looking at her list of movies, it is like pretty much all horror.
Yeah,
The
no,
E.T.
she was in.
reunion? There was a fucking E.T. holiday special?
Why aren't we watching that?
Oh,
It
wait.
was it's not a it's not like a Christmas movie. It's just like they got together for
Yeah.
a reunion.
This poster
around
is very
Christmas.
manipulative. Very dishonest poster.
E.T. is a Halloween movie. Weird that no one ever watches this one around Halloween. It takes place at Halloween.
I'm sure there are some people. I just think around Halloween people are talking about spookier movies. This movie's just really sad. I mean, it's not all sad, but it does a good job at being sad.
Yeah, give us your opinion on E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Mitzi.
It's a beautiful story, a timeless tale of a telepathic relationship between a boy, and his alien. I guess a man and his alien could be true. He will grow up to be a man, and perhaps still possess telepathic powers with this alien. This is a beautiful relationship that they have. I was not paying much attention because I knew I didn't have to pay attention because this isn't my podcast. Okay. I'm just a parasite.
Okay.
I knew a little bit about it. I've seen it like 2 times before I watched it now. Yeah, no, surprisingly it didn't make me cry because like the end, like, and towards the end where you think he's dying is really sad even though you know he's going to live. Like you feel really bad for the kid. And for E.T.
I guess that's worth bringing up. Matt, did this movie ever make you cry at any point? Like now or in the past?
No.
It didn't make me cry. I mentioned this, like, our teacher showed it to us in elementary school just because he said, oh, it's the saddest scene ever. Let's watch it and see if anyone cries, which was, again, weird. I don't know why he did that.
I just want to make children cry.
But I was like, as a kid, I was thinking I might actually cry at this because I'm a fucking crybaby. I do cry at movies. I did back then. I do now. But no, it didn't do anything because it's like, it's like, yeah, I guess you need to see a movie start to finish if you're gonna feel anything for the characters in the climax scene.
I don't even think the ending of this movie is that sad. Like, okay, yeah, no. E.T. has to go home. That's kind of sad.
No, I don't mean the end. I mean, like, the almost dying of E.T. Like, that's sad.
Because he is dead for a couple of minutes before they bring him back, you know? So it's like, someone watching the movie, I do question if there's, like, I'm sure most adults watching the movie knew he was going to come back. There might be some kids that were, like, convinced that they were actually killing him off because, yeah, like, he is dead. He comes back, but it's like fucking Ash in Pokemon. He is dead temporarily.
Oh my god, yeah.
The thing I'll say is I didn't cry or get teary-eyed or anything watching this. I will say it's like, it was making me feel emotions, though. I think part of it is just how real that scene was. Like, they don't just start playing this, like, overly dramatic music. You hear the doctors, like, talking amongst each other for a while. There's, like, silence for a while before he actually starts to talk to E.T. Like, when they leave the two alone. Like, it's like, I don't know, they just painted that scene in a bit, like, weirdly realistic way.
Everything with, like, the doctors and I guess maybe FBI agents, I don't know, coming in and, like, you know, doing whatever it is they're doing on E.T. and Elliot, it feels very scary. Like, it's, like, you legitimately consider that from, like, the point of view of E.T. It's a terrifying thing to happen to you. Imagine you get lost on an alien planet and you're dying and a bunch of bitches in white suits just come and start hooking things up to you. Like, that's terrifying. I don't know, I feel E.T.'s perspective in this whole movie. I feel like his perspective shines through in this.
It's a weird moment in the movie, too, because in that scene, they are trying to do something good. They're trying to save his life. The only question is, if they successfully save his life, what happens next?
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to save his life, but for what gain? You know, you have one doctor in there who seems like a decent person. The rest of them we know nothing about.
They literally just it seems like they just fucking break into the house. Like, they don't even knock.
No, there's an alien in there.
Oh yeah, and they show up in fucking, like, astronaut suits, and it's like unnecessarily creepy.
Yeah, no, it's very terrifying. I would be scared. I would be like, why are you in my house? Why are you wearing a ski mask because you're not skiing? No, it's astronaut suits, but still same.
You're not in space.
Yeah, why are you wearing a spacesuit? You're not in space. What are you doing? But I feel like you understand E.T. throughout the movie. Like he's lost and he's scared and he's trying to figure things out so he can get back home. Like you really understand, I don't know, his perspective. I don't know how else to phrase it.
No, they made him feel that, like, just despite being like a puppet, they worked him really well. They made him very sympathetic. They delivered it through the expression, because he's a character who speaks very minimally, and it's not always easy to make a character like that work, but they nailed it.
This movie also got a lot of laughs out of me. I like the part where he's just wandering around in like a flannel.
Drinking Coors.
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was like, let it be known that E.T. hates potato salad, but he loves Coors Light.
I loved the scene where the mom shouts, "No, you are not dressing up as a terrorist," because
yeah, no, that was funny.
My brother tried to do that on Halloween one year. My mom had the exact same reaction. And I wonder if my brother tried to do that because of this movie.
The mom feels very mom.
Like, that made me laugh so hard, because it's just like, I didn't know that was a thing in this movie, but I remember that, like, that happened. That happened to me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have much else to say about this movie.
Score was pretty good. John Williams normally does a pretty good job.
Oh yeah, no, a very memorable score. Very memorable score.
I think this might have been one of the movies we watched for music and film. Or it might have just been one of the movies we like talked about but didn't actually watch. I don't remember. I do remember listening to that score for that class though.
Oh, I wanted to say something about Dee Wallace, which is like, there's clearly a little bit of projection on... I only know this now because I watched Fabelmans recently, which actually was another Spielberg movie that I enjoyed quite a bit. But not only does it's like based on that movie, is he clearly projecting a bit of his childhood onto this. Dee Wallace, I don't know if she looks like his mother or not, but she does look like the mother in the Fabelmans a lot. Like, they look eerily similar.
Yeah. No, I do very much get the sense that Spielberg was writing, like, sort of about his own family in this.
Right.
Maybe not exactly, but...
Probably not entirely, because, again, if the Fabelmans is anything to go off of, the mom being angry at the father for being in a relationship is kind of reversed.
Maybe Spielberg just wanted an alien to come down and telepathically connect with him.
Yeah.
Like we all do sometimes.
He wanted a hot alien GF.
Yeah, E.T., the hot alien GF.
If I'm being honest, like, we've praised the puppet. It's a little ugly, but, like, I think it works in the end. I do think, like, in the end, he is, like, a cute character.
I praise the puppet because he's expressive. Like, it's not... I can't tell... I don't see any, like, hands. I don't see any strings. I don't see anything, like, in the... Like, they made him work, and they hid whatever they were doing to make him work really well.
You know what? I think E.T. is like a hairless cat. He looks really odd, and he looks really out there.
Yeah, and I mean, because he's got like all
He works it.
He's got all these like weird wrinkles and skin folds.
Yeah, he's like a hairless cat. He works it.
They made him lovable without making him cute.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good testament to the movie that they didn't have to do anything super manipulative to get people to like it.
He pulls it off. Is what he does.
Oh, I won't say the movie doesn't do any manipulation, but, like, movies are supposed to have some manipulation.
Movies are supposed to be manipulative. That's kind of almost the whole point of movies, is just to manipulate you.
I feel like there is a fine line between, like, effective use of emotions and just manipulating the audience.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing.
I don't.
I think it's a fine line to tread.
No, because, like, there's some scene... I see people, like, portray this kind of thing in some movies where they're, like, hitting certain checkboxes. Like, yeah, if they made E.T., like, really adorable, then that would have been a more manipulative thing to do, I think. Because it's like, of course you're going to care about him then.
Right.
Where instead they made him look like this, but they've But it's not like making him cute would have like killed the movie. It's not like there's no world where that could work. But because of that, you know that you like him for him. You like the personality of the
Yeah.
character.
No, I mean, I think he's supposed to be like a character who's like kind of freaky at first.
Yeah.
But like the characters in the movie grow to love him, and you grow to
You
love him
warm
too.
up to him.
Yeah.
Like not just an appearance, just like as an overall package, he's supposed to be kind of freaky when he first shows up.
Anyway, I think I've said my piece. Anything from you two?
No, I think we talked more about this than I thought we were going to, but
Yeah, I thought I wasn't gonna be able to make it in there.
I'm glad you did.
well, thanks for joining us, everyone at home. I don't know what the next Out of the Ring is gonna be, because I have gone out of my way to make sure next month's matchup we do not have to do one for, but I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll like in the near future we'll just do an episode on, something we've covered in the past. I would like to do either like Tim Burton's Batman or the 70s Superman movie.
I think E.T.'s face is cuter than the rest of his body. Like, if you just look at the face, you're like, yeah, that's kind of a cute little alien. But if you look at the rest of the body, it's like, oh my god, that is a deflated old man. That is like a naked, deflated old man body.
The back of his head looks like a nutsack. All right. Thank you for joining us, Mitzi.
You're welcome. I'm always happy to be a parasite.
And Michael, if you've got nothing else to add, then for my co-host Movie Makal, I'm Matt Presents. We will see you in the next one.
I'm not Matt Presents.
Peace.